Hey, welcome to the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. Absolute pleasure to be here, ready to rock and roll. And we are just doing this a la natural, no headphones, as you might notice. You know, I thought let the ears be free today.
Fly be free.
Fly be free, indeed. Resident expert, of
Nanu,
course,
nanu.
genius. Nanu. How did you throw a Mork reference in so early? I love that. That is very cool. My favourite comedian ever, I think. Hey, great to be here, part of the Genius Zone, of course, today. Now, we love our interaction, obviously, at Edge. So if you've got comments coming through, just don't be shy. Obviously, the great thing about this is we can see so many of them live, but others we see later. We can, and a lot of people watch the show later. That's a big thing. As you can imagine, a show that goes all over the world, different time zones, right?
Yeah.
So we get the questions maybe later, which is
I reckon
fantastic.
if we did it at 10 o'clock at night, it would be it'd be good, and good for America as well.
Very good for the Americans. They'd enjoy that.
Yes.
I might start flying. That's not true.
Yeah,
Let's be honest. Right? That's not
You work long and hard enough
I'm
already.
a night owl, so that would be fine on that one. So, yeah, throw the questions in. Love to answer them. But in the meantime, let's jump into the subject matter of today. And what is that?
Oh, do I really didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to
don't
give
tell me
you
then.
any warning about this.
Shall we keep it a secret all the way through?
Watch out, guys. He might run out the door here.
Uh-oh.
It is curse or block, breaking, curses, chains, strongholds, and all those things.
Okay, so we've
over your life.
gone full hippie. Okay, we're talking about curses
guess so,
here.
You know, like I have been called an overdressed hippie before.
Yeah,
so
okay, well,
yeah.
Better be overdressed than underdressed. Well, depends, I don't know. It depends on you. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
The
all right.
formality style. So yes,
curses.
and it's
All right.
so it is curses.
Okay.
But really I believe there's a lot of sort of hype around the word curse. And I know 10 years ago I would have been absolutely frightened and running myself on this one, because you sort of summarize and you think of a curse as something really black, dark, and scary over your life. But actually, it is really just when you're taken down in a certain area of your life. So down in your health, down in your relationships, down in your success.
Okay.
And so therefore it is really not as spooky as it sounds, although when it comes to breaking the patterns, I reckon that's more woo-woo than the curses themselves.
Okay, because I mean, when we talk about curses, we often talk about the curses. Someone's put a curse on you. Your phone's going off. Everyone's phones are going off left, right, and centre. Tell you right now, probably people asking questions. Yeah, ask through the big box. That's the best way to do it.
Come on, you guys.
Always great to see. Okay, but curses, I think about that's something that someone's put on you, right? Okay, voodoo. Okay, they've got themselves a doll out there. They're poking sticks and needles into you. I do know someone who used to do that.
Wow, really?
Really?
Like one of those dolls? And
Yeah. She had sort of like reeled the person's hair in there and everything like that.
Oh, that's really scary. See, that scares the heebie-jeebies
I
out
have
of
known
me.
her for a very long time, and I've made sure I always keep on her good side.
Yep, I don't blame you.
It's a good move on that one.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we see people jumping online. Fantastic.
Yep.
If you've got any questions, don't be shy. Type away, and as I say, we'll talk about them now or next week, or depending what time zone you're in, we will jump on that one. But, okay, so we're talking curses and blocks.
Karmic wounds, chains.
Okay, so we're not talking about Lego. Not that kind of block?
Unfortunately not Lego.
Right, okay.
Although, you know, my grandson would love to have a game of Lego.
Oh, we'll set him up.
But he'd probably break all the chains on it anyway. So there you go. Okay, so let's start with some of the, thoughts that I would, have.
Yep.
Which is things like, well, what you just said. Can a person put a curse onto you? Well, I'm going to start off with my own story, if that's okay.
You do that.
I'm pretty blessed. I feel like I'm a really blessed person. I've had, really, really, really great life, and I'm having a great life, and I know my life is going to get betterer.
Okay. Betterer. I like that.
Betterer.
Why not? Invent a word. If you haven't got one, throw that in there. Love it.
So, about this time last year, Aaron, something weird happened.
Okay.
And I met a witch.
Real?
And yes, but she was about 28 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, gorgeous. Like you would never think that she was.
And her phone number is?
Witch. No, you don't. But look, the fact is that I at the time I was quite fascinated by her.
Right.
And you know, in our industry there is the good ones, and they usually are,
Okay.
and all the things. But when she came into my life, there was a few things that happened. There was that mentorship, because she was a very good businesswoman.
Right.
And, you know, she was doing the shamanic work and all that kind of stuff. So rather than it being, you know, traditional like the stuff that I do, so I'll be sitting there and I'll ask the question, you know, what's happening for you? What does that feel like?
Right.
How's that affecting your life right now? And then tracing it to perhaps where it started and then blowing it out of the water.
Okay.
Simple like that, right?
So find the cause, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Find
The entry point.
But this one was different.
Okay.
She told me to turn off my video while there was dead silence for 30 minutes. And I found that very bizarre. Now, I do know that there's all of that, you know, healing that can be virtual surrogate, but you have to get permission.
Okay.
And what I do know is that this was the start to this big slippery slide that, and this is coming back to curses. Curses are one of those things that if you have a bad day and then you get up the next day and it's a good day, you know, that's not a curse.
Okay.
That's just
It's
normal. That's just a dip, you
Yeah.
know, and we've got to expect this sort of thing in our life.
Right.
A curse is more likely when several things are going wrong.
Okay.
You know,
is it the case of, you know, it happens in threes?
I
Sometimes?
really believe in the threes, but I think it's even beyond that.
Okay.
You know, they do say things come in threes, but I feel like if a person, you know, believes it, it's going to happen anyway.
Okay.
So for all I know, what I'm about to tell you is completely untrue. I know that sounds
Jeez.
really weird, right?
Okay.
But I have this belief system that in her weird and woo-woo stuff, I got a very bad feeling about it.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
About her or the stuff?
Just what she was doing.
Oh,
and
okay.
I, you know, while she was silent and everything, I just found that to be truly bizarre.
So, okay, you've contacted her. So, okay,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So you're looking for some guidance.
I was. I mean,
Right.
you know, you've got to have people that are better than you in something.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so important to talk. Look, it's not even a case of better. I mean, it's just a case of, look, sometimes you need to verbalize things, right? You need to talk about things. You need to talk to people who might know a bit of the subject, so they've got a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I get that. Yeah,
We all need
improve.
each other. I mean, you can't be expected to do everything. So especially in my field, a lot of the people that I tend to attract online anyways, they're wanting to put their business out there, and they've got a lot of magic. They're very gifted and all of the things. But when it comes to the hustle and the marketing and all of that media stuff to kind of go, right, pull them all in, they kind of get a bit lost in that.
Oh, I think there's so many of us like that.
I know if you put 5 people in front of them, most of the people I'm working with, they could change their life.
Gotcha.
You know, they would know how to help that person to change their own life. I mean, it doesn't come from us, it comes from them, right?
Well, they've got to make a decision and changes, right?
Yeah. So in this case, I'd chosen this woman because she was an absolute badass when it comes to marketing her business.
Okay.
And, you know, she was clever, well-educated, and I don't really feel that she was a shaman in the sense of a shaman, because I'm not a shaman. I don't call myself
a
shaman.
Charlatan, maybe.
Actually, you know what? I think that was spot on.
Okay,
yes, that's pretty spot on.
Look, there are people in every space, right? That will profess to be an expert and all kind of thing, and they're just very, very good at marketing themselves, and quite frankly, some of them are quite dishonest. So you've got to spend some time with people. You've got to ask the right questions and you find out if they're on the level, I guess.
Yeah, she's a very clever girl. Don't get me wrong. Very clever. And absolutely, that's why I hired her, because I wanted her sales tactics. I mean, I'm a good saleswoman. I always have been. But in the online space, it's a little bit different.
Totally
you know, you've got to find your niche. You've got to know who you're talking to. And I think we overthink about these things.
No question about
and
that.
And the moment we overthink, we lose that presence and that magnetism.
Right.
So you've really got to kind of like just get back in the space. But now because I didn't feel comfortable with her, and because I may have told myself a little story that she's a charlatan, although I didn't actually say that word, maybe in my belief system, in my fear-based Noah, I put it out there and attracted it. But what happened after that was such a downward spiral. It's almost like too many things were going on.
Really?
And, you know, here's the other weird part. I don't mean to be a negative Nancy here.
No.
But, you know.
Everything in the world has a positive and a negative, right? It's got a front, it's got a back, right?
Yes.
It's top or bottom.
Yeah.
You've got to look at all the angles. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So here's the other really bizarre thing. I started attracting really weird people. So, I mean, I had tarot, not to say, look, I have a lot of respect. A lot of them are in my community and I'm helping them put things together and create content.
Right.
But, you know, I had a lot of people approaching me and saying, you've got to do something. There's something over you, and actually speaking into my life. And I was getting really angry because I'm like, how dare you point the finger, you know, like the witch doctor that points the finger. And then that
no bone through the nose, though, right?
No bone through the nose, maybe an earring. But, you know, they point the finger and the person actually believes it. It's a bit like, you know, when a person goes to a doctor and they say they give an outcome. So they'll say, you've got 6 months to live. And that person believes it. But this is where you've got to break that curse. You've got to break that belief system. You've got to break that. Now, maybe I allowed that to get in somewhere into my subconscious. And, you know, what I've seen happen is astronomical. But all the people like that approached me and said, be careful, you know, you've got something happening. And one said, you've got a karmic wound from your grandmother. You've got to do this and do that. So I kind of just really, you know, the thing is that I've got resources. So even though, like if you looked at it, you know, if you mapped it out, everything that's been going on in my life this year, the whole of it,
it
ended last week. So last week, yes, in 2023, that's when it all began.
And so you just had a 12-month cycle, I guess. A
season.
Right.
A season. And then this is what I'm going to be talking about on the show. I broke it through awareness. And that is the biggest thing. So even, look, curse sounds really woo-woo, curse sounds really terrible. But if you feel like your life is kind of like going down, it's not exactly how you want it, and there are too many things happening and there's patterns that are repeating, you've really got to be able to stand up and go, this is happening. And rather than running from it or just going, oh, this is my life, you've got to be able to come back and embody it and embrace it.
Okay, so interesting you use those words, because when you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, right, if you're seeing patterns, you need to confront those things, right? So, because obviously if there's a pattern, there's something you're doing to induce that into your life, right? So I mean, I'm using very different terminology, but I get. But
the audience needs that terminology, Aaron, because, you know, they need the layman's terms. So, you know, when it comes to breaking these curses, it could be, well, breaking blocks. Like, is it a block or is it a curse? And if it comes, they say if it comes from your parents, it's a curse. If it comes from your own life where it's a block. So whether that's right or wrong.
Well, it depends. If you want to blame mum and dad, right? Then, hey, right, come on.
But then they got it from their parents.
Of course they did.
And they say that there's the sins of the 7 generations.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah.
7 generations.
Yeah, it's in the Bible too, but it's the 7 generations. I mean, you heard of all the sins, like the sin of slothfulness, the sin of lust, the sin of vanity, the sin of this, the sin of that, all of those kinds of things.
I've seen the movie with Brad Pitt. It was pretty good.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was a pretty horrible ending, just for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You were shaking in your boots?
I was surprised.
Okay.
I was shocked. So there you go.
Okay. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to give the ending?
No, I won't.
A
I'll
lot of
just tell
people
you
do that.
it's gross.
It's not good. Okay.
okay.
All right. I won't watch it just on that
Yeah.
account.
But seven
So,
deadly sins. Okay.
The
so
seven deadly sins, of course.
Yeah. So, but this is a 7 generational thing, which is totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're
Work
still
with me.
relative. Like the
Okay.
7 deadly sins are very relevant. And the 7 generations, that's how far they say they go back.
Okay.
And they're really based on the same thing, and that is acknowledgement.
Right.
So don't try and run away from it. Look at it in terms of, okay, what is happening here? Ask yourself the question, what is happening in my life? And once you acknowledge it, then you've got to ask yourself the next question, which you've heard me say 1,000 times on this show, I'm sure. What is the gift?
Yeah.
What is the higher purpose?
Yep.
Because, once you can establish that, it doesn't matter how bad it is. Napoleon Hill says, for every negative seed, there is an equivalent positive one.
It's a mindset change. That is the old, it didn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Exactly.
That's something that I've only learned over the last couple of years. And I'm very, very filled with gratitude, the fact that I've learned that lesson, because I didn't before.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to go the woe is me route, right? Why has this happened to me? Well, okay, there is a gift in everything. You learn something horrible happens to you. It sucks, but it's a way of teaching you that lesson.
Yeah.
And it makes you dig deep and get something that you have to counteract that negative with a positive, right?
I mean, if nothing happens to us, we're kind of mediocre, if you will, and we're not breaking through because there's no kind of get up and go. There's that fire in their belly, and you know this community right here has got a lot of fire in their belly.
I no doubt about that.
Yeah, so that fire in the belly came from somewhere. It didn't come from nowhere. So there were things that happened, and you may even observe them to be things that were a curse. Like, I won't go into it, but
we all know.
Not what happened back then, back in 2020.
2020. Something happened.
Something
I'm not sure
happened,
what it was.
but I'm not sure.
Kind of changed the world forever, but that's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that in itself could be considered as a curse.
But it hasn't been. The thing is, the truth is, it's actually been one of the greatest things that have happened on the planet, because what's happened is it's woken up so many people to what's going on in their lives around them. I mean, I just won't go into it, but the fact of the matter is that such a negative thing has awakened a movement and a different way of thinking for billions of people. I mean, this wouldn't have happened without that big negative. So there's a lot of power in that.
As a result of this happening, this has happened, and people go into, leadership, and they go into those incredible opportunities in their life. And if you look back at it and go, well, it all started back here, way
Here
back
is
when.
the moment where it all kicked on.
And really the best thing to do is, this is something where we pass the baton. So we can pass the baton and break the generational curses. And this is where I've got a little segment in my kind of master key program called the legacy. So there's the 5 master keys, right?
Yes. Yep.
And it is all about unlocking, and it sort of comes from everyone that came into clinic. I didn't just make it up out of my head. I'm not that brilliant. But, it was done through the case studies of people. Now, they usually have problems with their health.
All right.
So people come in and they're suffering with health issues, or they might even get struck down by really mysterious things.
Right.
And we believe that everything comes from here, the nervous system, and holding stuff in the body.
There's a lot of wiring in there.
There is a lot of wiring. So that's number 1. Number 2 is relationships. So those patterns that we talk about often on the show where, hasn't this happened before?
Yeah.
Didn't I
A little
kind of
bit of
get
history
into
repeating
this?
itself.
And what happened to that song? Like,
I've got it, actually. I should play it, but there you go. No, we would play it, but
not true,
we get
though.
thrown off YouTube.
Yeah.
Hey, hang
really?
on, you don't? Yeah, absolutely. So hang on. How do you find it not true? I'm curious on that one.
History never repeats.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on to a whole different song.
Okay.
No, you're thinking of Split End song.
Yeah,
History
sorry.
never repeats. I tell myself before I go to sleep.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
No, well, I think that song is very tongue in cheek. I think that's pulling the
It
Mickey
is.
just a little bit.
Yes.
Because
yes.
history does repeat.
It does.
Okay, everything like it's all a revolving cycle, and people can go. There's something as basic as fashion. Okay, fashion, boom, boom, boom. You hold on to it long enough, it's coming back. Give it to your grandkids, whatever.
Yeah.
There's so many cycles of war, of peace, of climate, of all of the weather patterns, social movements, religions.
Yeah.
It is nothing's new.
No.
Right, the tools might be new, like the tech changes.
Different people,
different
day and age.
That's right.
Same,
but it's the same thing,
stuff.
history, and that's why I think why I get very upset with people who try to erase history, because history is so important, right? Knowing the good and the bad, because to know where we're going, you need to know where we've been. All right, it's so important. And by pulling down statues like the lunatics were doing over the last couple of years, and probably continue to do on the quiet now, it's just not making the public side of things. But I was about to say it doesn't make the news, but I have so much disrespect for mainstream media now that I won't even call them the news, because it's just propaganda.
Just mainstream.
Yeah.
Spin doctors.
Yep, spin doctors, exactly what they are.
Yeah.
So, all of these cycles take place, and we try and make the best of it. But
I mean, even the war, that's not new. I mean, not even what's going on over in, between
and the reasons for it are
and
not
the Israelites and all that kind of jazz.
That's right.
So, it's in the Bible. It's quite incredible. So these things, they are effective, and in our own life, if we're having bad recurring patterns, bad relationships, having problems with our health, we can do something about it. That's the good news. So the relationships, number 2. Number 3 is prosperity codes. Okay. Now, believe it or not, prosperity codes comes from your self-love, your self-worth. You see,
can you explain that to me?
Yeah. If a person doesn't feel worthy, or they feel there's that inner kind of element where there's a lack of self-confidence, self-love, self-value, money is going to really struggle that prosperity, because they don't feel like they deserve it. There's this undercurrent that they don't feel like they deserve it. And even that can come from history.
Oh, I think, okay, your personal history, like your parents or that kind of side of things?
Like, my father, when we were growing up, he was and he still is, a very successful man. He bought a real estate agency. Yep. He ran office there with my parents, everything like this. However, guess what?
What's that?
Dad came from Burma.
Right.
And poverty conscious.
Now, this is so true, and I certainly can identify with this because little family link as well from that point of view. Yeah, because there's that fear of going back to that, right? Okay, it's built in. And obviously, look, a lot of people who went through the war, when we say World War I or World War II, but certainly World War II, they were accustomed to the fact that this can happen again. So
they're scared. There's fear.
Yeah, there's fear.
And so Dad had this, thing where Mum would actually call it false humility.
Right.
That he would have this really flashy car, but he'd take his clients out to show them houses in the bomb that would putt down the road. And, this was, obviously the background is definitely the fact that he was born in a third world country. Yeah. And he had a thing about not wearing shoes. Like, I used to love wearing no shoes when I was a teenager. And if I would come home and he would see no shoes on my feet.
Right.
Oh, I just committed the biggest sin. And it's about that poverty consciousness and what he remembers. So that's prosperity codes. Number 4 is, guess what? Drum roll, zone of genius.
Okay, all right.
So the zone of genius. This is the
stuff you can gain control of, right?
Yeah. So the zone of genius is where what we were talking about, all the pain becoming your gain, the pain becoming your power, the story becoming your glory. And as a result of the deficits, it becomes something that is quite often people make it their gift.
Okay.
So they'll, that's where the zone of genius comes from. And, the zone of genius is also relative to the guru, which I talk about all the time, the gold behind all of that stuff that then turns into a realization and a opportunity to release and a revelation, meaning guru, right? That's the acronym. I love my acronyms.
Oh, I thought I was just a bit grumpy.
Oh, well, that grr. Well, exactly. So then, of course, we've got number 5.
Okay.
And this is the legacy. And I'm not talking about becoming rich and famous. I'm talking about breaking the family curses.
This is a really important thing to me. I think that so many, and I tried to do this in my own life, and I don't think I achieved it, unfortunately. And I don't think I can achieve it
yet.
No.
Up until now.
No. Like, okay, so I mean, I looked at the way the previous generation and went, oh, yeah, okay, I can see the mistakes there. I'm going to do things differently to give a different outcome. Well, I did things differently, and outside forces took that away from me. Okay.
Right.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So when you like the zig and the zag, if you're, say, the past zig zad kind of thing?
I'll just say it without being cryptic.
Okay.
So I love my dad very, very much, right? But my dad was like a dad of that generation. Okay. And also, guess what? Came from India, right? Okay.
I cannot believe that.
Yeah, there you go. So there's some links, the same sort of thing as what you were saying before, right? So there's that coming from a third world country, and there's a different, I don't know, perspective on things, right? Okay, fine. Now, this is not me having a go at my dad. My dad did a great job, okay, because the rules of his generation were very much that the way you looked after your kids is that you went out, you worked hard, and you made a good living, and you supported them financially and that sort of thing. So I am very lucky, okay, where I lived in a house which, was financially comfortable, went to a good school, all that sort of thing. That's how my father provided for me, okay? But he spent bugger all time with me. Okay. Bugger all time. And then later in life, when I started rallying and, that sort of success and adrenaline came into my life, then he sort of stepped in more and more and more, which was really, really great. Right. Now, this is, as I say, it's not a go at my dad. It's a different generation. They were taught a different way. For me, when I became a dad, I thought, I'm not doing it like that. I want to be with my kids as much as I possibly can. I love them very much. I want to be able to be involved in their life as much as I can.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah. So the financial thing's still important. I had to make sure that they, had education and a roof over their head and goodies, and I think they had a pretty good lifestyle. Okay. In fact,
you strike me as being the real good fun dad, the ones that they'd like to snuggle up to you. And,
oh man,
that
absolutely.
you'd be that kind of a bear.
Oh, and I love being the bear. And I remember we bought this big, very big, comfy, huge lounge suite. Okay. So the whole family could sit. So there's 8 people. Well, there was 8 people could sit there. And, my girls used to just snuggle into me. It was fantastic. And my young son as well. And when there's a big age gap. So my eldest son, when it was just him, he'd always snuggle into me. And I love that. Absolutely love that. I love that affection and that. So I didn't get that with my dad. Not his fault. Different generation. Okay. So I went and said, I made a conscious decision I wasn't going to let history repeat itself.
Right.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, in my case, why I say that I failed at that is because I, through my own mistakes and the control of others, my children were taken away from me, and that ability to be with my children was taken away from me. Now, that meant that I couldn't achieve that. So then that disconnect between generations is still going to be there, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? Because even though the love was given, even the time and the affection was given, it was taken away by, by a corrupt family court, by people who want to lie, people who were looking for financial gain.
Yeah.
At the detriment to those beautiful kids.
Oh, I know, right?
So you could have broken that generation curse, right?
And you still can. You still
can. I don't know. I don't think I can.
I'd love to talk you
I
through
hope I'm
that
wrong.
because,
I want to be wrong.
if you were, just say, for example, you came into clinic, you were sitting down with me and you were going through all of this. I mean, naturally, the first thing is that we would look at the awareness, which you've just done. You've identified it. You can see what's happened in history. You even know where your elements have come from. So, for example, your dad, And how common is that? Wanting to be the provider,
and he was
but
a wonderful
never
provider.
spending the time.
Yeah.
And yet it's not written on the tombstone when they die. That I provided, but being that person, you can't take that with you.
You can't take that, but I could see very clearly, because unfortunately my grandfather passed away before I was born, right? So I never met him, clearly. So, but it was obvious from the way that my dad would talk about his dad, there was that same situation. So I saw, funny enough, I wasn't thinking the generational curse as far as the term curse, but you could see there's a generational separation of the male in the family, the father in the family had to be stoic and wasn't allowed to cross that line effectively, right? So nurturing was given purely to the mum. And I wanted to break that cycle. And I gave it a red hot go.
Well, you know what? That is classic of what a curse is.
Well, there you go.
It's when that pattern is, and then somehow or rather, when you've wanted to zag in a different situation, the fact that that didn't happen, and that hasn't happened up until now. So we use that terminology, like if someone's saying doom over their life, we'll say in a hypnotic kind of way, so you haven't experienced that up until now. Because when you say up until now, you're then giving them the kind of opening, if you like, to expand their
Well, you're saying the door's
horizons.
not closed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's anything is possible.
Yeah.
And so that anything is possible. If I was talking with you as a client, you chose me to help you as a hypnotherapist, we'd identify it, which you've just done beautifully. And the legacy is in breaking the pattern, but at that element of your father, your grandfather, and you don't know, for all you know, years before that,
probably generations,
maybe
and generations.
7 generations,
probably.
and it probably does come down the line. So it's very much etched into your DNA, right?
Yep.
So being that it's etched into your DNA, there's kind of that natural fiber and that causes that pattern. But when you do the work that we're doing and you uproot it, so you're pulling it out from where it began. And quite often, how do we know where it began? I mean, especially if it was 7 generations ago, right?
Wasn't there, okay? Innocent.
Yeah, and this is the proof that it is not us as a facilitator that make these changes. It is the ability to know kind of like some resources of what to do moving forward. And it happens between their supernatural, because no matter what you say, no matter how woo-woo it might sound, you do have a conscious mind, right?
Of course you do.
You do have logic. You also have a subconscious mind. This has been shown in, when people are in a coma, that they hear what's being said at the subconscious level. I'd have a huge story around that, but we don't have time.
I've been in coma for a month.
I didn't know that.
There you go. For another day.
Yeah.
But
wow, that's good. We're going to have to bring that one up.
Well, let's jump into the questions.
Okay, let's
do that.
I'll just quickly finish this conversation. So the legacy is you go back, you break those ties, you trust your supernatural self to go back, unhinge it, release it, you become the legacy. Why? Because you have broken that pattern generations ago to even people that have passed on. Okay. So here's the really big part. Even your kids will feel it. I think so. Even though I don't think I got to finish
the work that I wanted to achieve, I think that I hope and I pray that my children saw enough that then when they go into their lives that they will carry that legacy on. I mean, I hope and I pray. But,
I really believe that
you never
will.
know.
Because the work you're doing here and all the greatness that you're doing, I believe is going to have that legacy effect on them, whether they're in front of you or not.
Look, ultimately, I just want people to have the best possible life they can have. It's really that simple. And it's not about financial stuff. It's not about status. It's about surrounding yourself with amazing people. Life is relationships. Full stop. Right?
Yeah.
So
the famous people would agree with that. They'll go, well, it doesn't bring me happiness.
No, it's got a lot of bucks in the bank, but that's all it does. And you're quite right. All those people who have got this great financial wealth and they're thought of so highly and people idolize them and they can't go to the shops.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. It's
I mean,
like,
I used to.
can't even have a bad hair day.
That's
you know?
right. I mean, that's one thing. Funny enough, one of my early things in radio, right, is, and I love this. I just love this. I went and did this gig on radio, and it was quite a big one. So there was a big audience, okay, like 100,000 people, right? And then I walked down the street and nobody knew who I was. And I just loved that. I thought, I have now spent the last few hours entertaining 100,000 people. I've made 100,000 people hopefully happy. Probably some of them not. But, you know, I mean, that's what my intention was.
You became anonymous.
Yeah, and then walking away. That's the great thing, how we used to be in radio. It's not the case anymore because obviously profiles and all the social stuff, but it was a wonderful thing. You could have the best of both worlds. And I mean, you look at famous people in Australia, like Fred Boddicker did it very, very well like that, as far as never showing his face, and great stuff. So all right, well, let's jump into these questions, because I noticed the first question, it's from a long way away. I think this is we've had obviously a lot of questions come in from America, and love the American audience. I actually, quite frankly, love our audience from all around the world. I got a message in today, by the way, from a gentleman who is watching the show, said some really, really wonderful things. He's actually a big follower of Edge. He watches several shows, which is great, from Sweden. And just a big fan of what we're doing. And I thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Good. Yes, that's excellent.
I wish I could. I think you pronounce his name Johan.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's got the accent. It's got the accent. Yeah, it starts with a J. It's got the accents. Yeah,
like Johannesburg.
Yeah, like similar like that. Yeah, spot on. So fantastic. Well, this lovely lady Teresa, she's all the way from LA in the US. So I love your show. We love you watching. Thank you very much. Even though I can only watch the replays, I feel like my relationships are cursed no matter what I do. Things just don't work out. Can you tell me why my affirmations are not working? I'm dedicated to saying them every day, as my mentor advised.
Well, it's just like this. You know, if you've got weeds in your garden, and I did steal this from Anthony Robbins. Okay. There's no point saying, my grass is green, my grass is green. If you've got weeds everywhere taking over, I've got a beautiful garden, but you haven't. No. You know, so there's got to be a little bit of, you've got to get down in the dirt and get some honesty happening here. So if your subconscious mind is going, nah, that's not true. I'm rich, I'm gorgeous, I'm magnetic. It's like, yeah, right. You don't really believe that, right? So, that's really what it's all about. So what can you do? There is a difference between, and I talk about this to my community, affirmations and invocations.
Please explain. I do not know what you mean at all.
Invoking, you're kind of putting it in to the layers that are beyond the conscious mind. That's gone, hey,
I
get
have
a life.
layers. I'm like an onion. I cried too. For those who understand the Shrek, it was Shrek joke. Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Okay. But let's go with that. Okay.
Yeah, so invocations are when you can really face up to what you don't believe in and be able to create a decree and a declaration. Okay. So the decree and the declaration is very, very powerful, and by stating it rather than just my garden's beautiful and it's not, you've got to really be able to, number one, you've got to be able to say it, but also to take massive aligned action. If you don't take massive aligned action where you are really wanting something, it's just going to fall on deaf ears. That's just to be honest. You're just beating your head against the wall. So my quick suggestion would be, what is holding you back, Teresa? Is it that you don't believe it? That's what it's really comes down to. It's a belief system. You don't actually believe it. But what if you did believe it? So if you found, for example, an NLP practitioner, they could do, and I know a lot of counselors and coaches can do it as well, they can do a change of beliefs. Okay. And that is a real thing. So you have good beliefs, but then you have not so good beliefs, and you can actually amend, adjust, and recreate the beliefs that are not working.
Okay. I sit here as someone who doesn't believe in affirmations, okay, because I've seen so many people who write wonderful things and stick them on their fridge and their toilet walls and all that kind of thing, and walk through a house and saying, da, 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 I am this, I am that, and they don't believe it. right?
Yep.
So I'm with you 100%. And when I say I don't believe in affirmations, I want to, right? Because I want people to take them seriously. Okay. I want, when people say them, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You've got to actually make changes. It's just saying the words is probably, I don't know, the first step, if you like.
Yeah.
So,
and getting down into the reality of why people are saying those affirmations. The reason why, Aaron, is because they don't believe they've got it. So it makes sense. So if you don't believe you've got it, then you've got to change that belief system. So that's really what it's all about. Because one way of doing it is forgetting about it. I know that sounds strange, but if you can let go and you get distracted, like have you ever had a situation, for example, when you've lost something and you're trying to find it and you're looking everywhere for it and it's nowhere to be found, and then you go to bed, forget about it, and the next day there it is.
Yep.
Something
happened to me yesterday. There we go. There you go.
So letting go, surrendering.
Yeah, okay. Now, well, that makes sense. It really does. Yeah, when you're hyper-focused on something, sometimes you're looking like we're right past it.
What you don't have. You're thinking, I don't have it. You're really saying, I'm great, but really you don't think you're great. And then you know that it's not there.
I mean, my thoughts to Teresa is, look, if you're not really feeling the affirmations, then when you're looking for somebody, you're looking for a life partner, or it could be it could be Mr. Right. It might be Mr. Right now, right? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If you're not really believing in yourself and you're not, I hate the term because it's so airy fairy, but if you don't love yourself, you kind of tell the world that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you can believe these affirmations, if you can say these things and you can genuinely feel them, and that means you've got to do the work on you first. Then when you go out there and you have a new relationship, you start attracting it, right? Like that's the difference. Yeah.
And maybe start focusing on something else, because I always tell a short, quick story about how I was madly in love with my initial husband when we were young and teenagers and all the rest of it, and he dropped me. And I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated.
You didn't key his car, though, did you?
Oh, no, nothing like that.
Just checking.
We were even younger than that, so I don't even think he had one. But I was totally, like, my first heartbreak, and I was obsessed.
Right.
I'd go to school. Everyone in the class knew his name. Everybody knew what he was like. So everyone had this big kind of, obviously, thing of him that he must be this, amazing. He is amazing. And then, one day somebody else came along. I didn't really like him that much, but I kind of got distracted. Guess what happened?
Oh, guess,
Guess who wanted to come back?
Of course they did. Absolutely. There you go.
So there you go.
We always want what we can't have, right?
That's it. Strange.
Our second question is from someone in Perth, Mel from Perth. Now, I know a few Mels from Perth, so I wonder if it's one that I know. Mind you, I'm going to guess. I reckon there might be a few Mels in Perth.
You might be right.
Might be right. Who knows? Now, Mel writes, after a bad breakup, my life has been falling apart. Someone once gave me a reading last year, just before the breakup, and said I had karmic wounds that came into the line from my ancestors that I need to heal from my past. That they needed healing. Ever since, it feels like everything in my life has gone wrong, one problem after another. I feel like I'm stuck in a cycle of bad luck. How can I change this? Please help. And I thank you for saying please help, because that's very, very sweet. Like, I mean, you're genuinely reaching out. I think that's great.
Yeah. So really, this is you've acknowledged it.
Yeah.
You know that this is going on, Mels. So the first thing is to identify the fact that you're going through these elements, and you might be called to be that legacy in your family, which majority of people will never know about this stuff.
Right.
They'll just keep sailing through life and then go on generation after generation. But this is the part where you can be the legend. You can also turn this into your power by recognizing what it's about. I mean, you'll need tools. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I was telling you about my story earlier.
Yep.
And thank God for the resources that I have, because I'd be in the loony bin. I am sure of it, with everything that has gone on for me. So I definitely highly recommend you become really at that level of super consciousness where you can tap in to a greater force. Perhaps you can believe in something above, God, whatever it is, and gain your faith back and make a declaration. So can I quickly say the declaration?
Knock it out.
Okay, so it's a decree and a declaration. So if you say, because I do this in my community all the time, I decree and declare
Yep.
to dissolve, clear, and release this pattern, unleash chains, I'm adding on a bit here, and break the strongholds over my life. God would actually agree with this, and this is what we do in the coaching space. The most important words, Mel, so that I didn't overtalk that, is I decree and declare.
Okay.
I decree and declare to dissolve, clear, and release this pattern, name your pattern, across all dimensions of time, past, present, future.
Okay.
Done.
I like that. Here's my 2 bobs worth. Completely not scientific in any way, shape or form. Okay. You know how at the moment, how there's this great movement to try and make people apologize for what their ancestors did. Okay. Because so, you know, apologizing for what your ancestors did to other people's ancestors. And then apparently we need to apologize to these people who are, you know, the children of, you know, all these generations that have passed.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And where I'm going on this is, okay, whatever, you've had the reading and that's great. I understand that, but it stops with you. Ultimately, you've got the decision. You are the person who can make your life wonderful or terrible, and the people in your ancestry has nothing, you know, nothing to do with it. You've got to draw that line and say, no. Well, and that look, it might have been true, right? Your ancestors might have been horrible people. I don't know. They might have done terrible things. Who knows, right? Now, I'll give you a strange example of that. I was talking about this yesterday. There's a friend in my past that he's moved away now, so I don't see him. Okay, without boring you to death, I have absolutely no doubt in the world that his father was a Nazi. Okay, I spent time with his father. His father had a very, very unhealthy relationship, we'll call it, with that part of history. We talk about the stuff, all kind of thing. And he spoke very, very, with great admiration about Hitler. And he was Polish. And the age didn't make any sense. And the things he would talk about. Now that man, in my opinion, did some really horrible things in the past. I'm really sure of it.
Yeah.
But my friend was an absolutely beautiful human being who cared about people, put people first, always looked after the people he loved.
Yeah.
Generous and giving and just all round wonderful. So, like, you know, that's coming from a very, very ugly, you know, generational change.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything more ugly than coming
and they
from that
zagged.
part.
That person
absolutely zagged, yeah.
So, you know, when they zig, you zag. And that happens. And
so you can draw a line. So you know what?
Definitely.
Forget about the sins of your father, your mother, your you know, auntie, your uncle, right? or your gran or whatever. Just get on with your own life. You can control that. You can't control them. So
And another thing, if I may add, which is prompted this, is that the reading. So when you've got someone telling you what's going to happen with your future, be very careful about that. You know, I mean, if you're having someone prophesy over your life, that might be different. But when someone's saying this and this and this is going to happen to you, you may believe it. And then as anything you believe, you will end up happening in your life.
Okay. Can't argue with that. We're going to have to be quick. Geez, we're running out of time.
I know, right?
We can yap. This is from Beck from Melbourne. Hey, Beck, how you going? Okay, there's someone I care about deeply who seems to have a lot of health issues around him. I am a spiritual healer and he is a close friend, and I cannot unsee what is happening. He knows my work and has not asked for any help, but I feel strongly that I really want to help him. Is this pushing boundaries? Do I be honest with someone I care about so much, or do I just watch him continue down the slippery slope?
Could this come back to the soul contracts? You
Totally
know, we
possible.
were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, because I can really relate to this scenario as well, and also being a spiritual healer. Sometimes when we see a loved one suffering, we naturally want to jump in 2 feet in a heartbeat and help them, right? And sometimes that can be harder on us. I don't know how close you are to this person, Beck, but it can be harder on us and it can affect our life. So firstly, I would suggest to release the rescuing spirit.
That's a tough one.
I know, right?
Good luck with that.
And one of the elements that I tend to have used for myself personally is this is their journey.
Okay.
If they are meant to heal it, they will find a way to you.
Yep.
Something will happen. They'll get prompted, the opportunity. I don't believe in forcing anyone. It won't work.
No,
will
I think they have to be.
work.
They have to be ready.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So,
yeah. So I don't know whether that answers it, but that's what my suggestion would be.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. You've just got to sit back and wait, and know it's really hard when you've got the answer, but you've got to let, you got to let your kids go out and make their own mistakes. You've got to let your friends, you've got to let your families. They've got to make their own mistakes, and when they hit the wall, then they'll come to you, and then you'll be there and you'll be ready for them.
Yeah,
so,
if it's their journey, it will happen.
Very true. All right, that is the end of the show because we have gone over as we always do. We're terrible at time management here at Edge Radio Australia, it appears. Well, no, I'm not. Terry is. It's all
me.
Terry's fault.
All my fault.
I take no responsibility whatsoever.
It's a pattern.
Yes, it really is. Thank you so much for being part of the show, those who have come through. We sent it out a different way today, and I actually went and put a different pathway of all the different, it goes so many places, right? So I'm actually
looking stream, you mean?
for the streaming,
live?
yeah. So it's gone to other parts first.
Okay.
We kind of spun it around. I thought I'd give it a test.
Why not?
Why not?
Change it up.
Live a little, right?
Yeah.
So I'm telling you right now, there is not going to be. There are so many comments I can't see that are on the back page. So during the week, we are going to have some reading to do and some little research.
Right?
So let's get into it. But for the moment, let's get out of here. You've been part of the Genius Zone here at Edge Radio Australia.